apartment, and that I don't know how comfortable I would feel about living in the city. This is, of course, like me living in a sailboat. So my lifestyle was pretty particular. And not sure if you guys have experienced it, but when you have a partner and you're going to move together, you have to be pretty honest. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem. So I don't really remember how we even got to this idea, but we were just like, okay, we're not going to live in a house, we're not going to live in an apartment, so, and we're not going to live on the sailboat, so let's build a tiny house. Don't really know the detail of how we got to that conclusion, we got pretty excited, and right away I just started drawing, started sketching ideas of what a tiny house could look like. And I had never watched the show that's on Netflix or wherever it is. So it was pretty raw in my mind, and started researching from that moment. And this first sketch that you see here is the first sketch that I made, thinking of a place to live and build. So initially, already I we had already decided that I was going to build it. So it was a pretty intimidating thing to think about, but after building some stuff and doing plenty of research, it was just a matter of tackling it piece by piece. So here you have the first sketch, which it ended up being nothing like this, but it's the first sketch, and I do believe that the first sketch is always nice to go back to. It's the genesis of the whole project. And you can see on the sketches that uh, we wanted plenty of windows, and also considering plenty of windows here in South Florida, you do have to account for hurricanes. So on that top right elevation, you can see the windows have the old school Miami shutters, which let light in, but whenever a hurricane comes, you can just put them down. And pitched roof is it was a style that we were interested in, pretty traditional. And yes, lots of windows. It was a big demand from my wife. And you can go to the next slide. So the interior was, because I lived on a boat, I was pretty familiar with interior spaces, tight spaces, and functionality of the furniture and cabinetry. And so the inside of the house is very similar to what a boat is. And you can see there in the plan on the top left, kind of trying to figure out where the entry is to the house, and where the kitchen's going to be, where we're going to sleep, where the bathroom's going to be, and so on. The bottom two elevations were still trying to figure out. Now you have to understand here that this was a project that my background is in architecture, and as an architect, the drawings that you make are the project for you. The actual building part of it is not really entirely yours. That's more of the builder's project. But as an architect, if you want to build anything, you have to draw it very well. In this case, you have to understand that I was both the architect the client, and the builder. So the drawings were just about figuring it out, detailing for me. And so it was a very strange dimension that I had to kind of walk myself through. So you're not going to see the best drawings. They're not professional drawings, but they are very clear on what I wanted and how I was going to go about it. So look at the drawings more as a study rather than me handing this package to a contractor who's going to build the house. You can go to the next slide. Here again, this is me drawing in CAD to understand dimensions of the windows. This is the elevation cutting long side of the house. At this point, we had already decided that the door is going to be on the side, not on the front. And you can see here me trying to figure out the cabinetry. And that was important because in such a small house, every inch matters a lot, because if one cabinet's going to be bigger, then you have to consider the window, and you can't really do much once you start building. Yeah, here you can see, so that top left area where those two little windows are, that's the sleeping loft. It's something that, we sleep, we go there once a day, sleep, and then come down, and we're not there again. So it wasn't really a priority for us to make that very comfortable. So it's plenty of space for us to crawl in and be cozy, but not living. My wife is a baker and a great cook. So for us, priority was the kitchen. And we gave ample height for the kitchen, and plenty of storage, plenty of cabinetry, and for the appliance. So you'll see how the kitchen gets developed. The closet, which is right of the fridge, which are those steps, you'll see how that was very, I would say that's like probably the most important part of the house, because it's both storage and ladder or stair, or it's what I needed to use to get to the top. And you'll see how that gets completely scrapped and becomes something else. All the way on the right, that's the living area, which it's surrounded by windows, and you'll see on the walkthrough later and during the construction. You can go to the next slide. Here's, I know that I called myself a woodworker because I don't really want to be very specific, because I'm not very specific. I mostly do custom furniture. So for me, the building of the house was not my forte, but it was the furniture that I really wanted to focus in. And you'll see here, this is one of the initial sketches of the kitchen sink counter cabinet, and me trying to figure out how I'm going to go about building this, designing it, and building it. You can go to the next one. The next slide. And once
I think it's lagging a little bit. Hold up.
Okay. Is that it?
There you go. I believe so.
And so the first thing we did was purchase the trailer. This was the only thing that I really didn't want to commit to building. I'm not an experienced welder. I don't trust myself working with metals. I don't have a metal shop, so and it's a trailer is the foundation of a house, of a moving house at least. So we really wanted to make sure that it was the best investment we can purchase. So this was the first thing, the foundation of the house. And there you can see samples of the facade that I already started, that I began to explore. We did agree that we were gonna have shingles for the house, which is not it's not South Florida style. I would think it's because of hurricanes. I can imagine shingles being a nightmare if a hurricane hits, but it's a tiny house and we were willing to risk it. It's a texture that we both really liked. And you can see there the property, which it's in I guess Kendall. It's by the Falls, South Miami area. So it's 3 acres of mango groves. So it was a pretty special place, and it made this tiny house feel much bigger than what it really is. On the right side, you can see my wife walking in front of a little camper that we were living in for, I think, like 8 months or something while we built the house. And there on the left, right behind her, behind that tree, you see that white structure. That's a little outhouse that we built because we all need a bathroom and a shower. So, and that is actually still being used today because I'm not finished with the house and currently working on the bathroom. You can go to the next slide. So we found that one of the most expensive things of a house are the windows. If you purchase them, if you make them, it's a different, they're the most time consuming, but that by far not the most expensive. So we wanted lots of windows, and we wanted to spend the money mostly on solar panels and solar power. So because I was building the whole thing, I chose to focus on making the windows first. That way, when we finish the facade, we plug them in and the house would be entirely sealed. So there you have me sitting between all the windows in my studio. You can go to the next slide. So there you have the house with getting framed. Not sure if you can really see it, but so this side of the house is where you can see the opening for the entry door. On the right side, you have the big openings for those big windows. And the left is the back of the trailer, which is where the bathroom's going to be, and the kitchen's before that. You can go to the next slide. And yeah, there's my wife. She's like, what the hell's going on? But it's happening. You can see us start to the sealing process of the walls. We started putting the roof also. You can see the rafters and the ridge beam. You can go to the next slide.
Sorry, you told me to move?
Yeah, next.
My bad.
There you can see the weatherproofing paper that that prevents moisture from entering the facade. And and it's a paper that you just wrap the house with. And I took this picture because it was pretty interesting while it was still covering the windows, and you can see the trees behind the shade, the shadows from the trees behind it. But yeah, this image you can see looking towards the front of the trailer where the big windows are going to be. And you can go to the next. There you see it from the outside and start to make the openings for the windows. Um, I don't remember what we chose on doing, whether to put the roof or the windows first. But we'll see on the next picture. You can go to the next one. Oh, yeah, we put the roof first. And it was because I didn't want to risk raising a panel or something and knocking the window. But yeah, here you can see the roof. Then you can see some wood strips on top, which was the base for the solar panels. And yeah, a lot of new things for me. I've never made windows before. I've never built a house before. It was a lot of trial and error, but with the background in architecture, it really helped understand the process and the building part of it. Having a wood shop was also very important because I try to prefabricate as much as possible. You can go to the next slide. Yeah, here you can see the inside with the windows installed. You can see the wrapping going inside the house and preparing everything for the installation. It's a very small house, and, and although we were going to be solar powered and we are going to have AC, we didn't want to rely 100% on electricity because sometimes we don't have electricity, and when that happens here in Miami, houses which are AC relied, or when you rely entirely on AC, the houses tend to be like coolers, which are great when you have AC, but when you don't have AC, I don't know if you've ever opened a cooler that's been shut closed for a very long time in the heat, and it's pretty disgusting. So having the windows was very important to allow cross ventilation, to allow the hot air above to escape and cool air to enter from below. And you can go to the next slide. Here you see the side panels or the interior panels. Here, aesthetically, diagonal is questionable, but structurally is the strongest thing you can do. Again, hurricanes were a very big consideration, and we wanted to build as strong of a house we could structure, Um, and I don't know if you've learned, but when you make a square with sticks is not very stable until you put a diagonal. And that understanding of a diagonal, that cross member, is what is shown here on these interior panels. These are 3/4 inch thick cypress boards. And this is a very old method of building homes. And you can see that helped the wall be more rigid. And all these old homes survived many, many hurricanes. So those were things that we really considered, because if a hurricane comes, we don't really have much control over it, but we want to prevent as much damage as possible. And you can see on the roof there the insulation. And all the walls and the roof are insulated. Windows are not the best insulators, but regardless, we went pretty serious on everything else. You can go to the next slide. Here you have the other side of the house. You can see the loft above, the kitchen area, and all the way in the back is the bathroom. And you can see on the ceiling. You can go to the next slide. There's Julia. She was an apprentice when we were building the house. You see my wife, like, not sure about what I was doing. You can see my cat also questioning what I was doing. Everyone was inspecting the house, making sure everything was fine. And luckily, everything was turning out fine. And yeah, convincing people of your work while you're working is very, very hard. And I'm sure you guys have experienced it, and you'll definitely experience it more. You can go to the next slide. Here you see the shingles being placed. You can see where I started and where I was still working on it. On that top left area, you can still see that paper. The AC was installed. I believe that at this moment, we were already living inside the house. We started living inside the house. You can go to the next slide. Yeah, you can see me there installing the shingles. A nightmare. A lot of patience. Like, every single shingle needs to be mounted individually. Is a lot of satisfaction, but it really teaches patience. You can go to the next slide. There you have the kitchen before any kind of cabinetry. That's what we had temporarily for us to live in. Yeah, you'll see that area be transformed. Like, you have to realize that here we're now living inside a construction house. So, or a house that's being built, which is not very easy. You can go to the next slide. And here you have the first cabinet of the house, which is on the previous slide was what missing. Here you have the vanity, which is that sketch that you saw earlier, one of those early slides. You can go to the next slide. So there you see on the right, the cabinet with the closet, which it has we decided to do a ladder instead of stairs. it took up less space, and it gave us the most storage. You can see the kitchen there with the stove. The back is still not finished. It's where the bathroom is. And there in the foreground, you see our other cat, Luna, just making sure there's no insects around. She's a good one. You can go to the next slide. And there you have the finished outside. Well, 99% finished. You can see the solar panels up there. Now the solar panels give us all the power we need. Figured, if this is the sunshine state, might as well take advantage of that. We're still hoping to build a small deck at the front of the door, maybe put some screens, extend or add a canopy over those windows. But that's later on. And I can go to the next slide, or I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that's the last slide.
All right, I'm gonna give you a quick walk.
Too thick, or it's too thick for.
Let me see. All right, so here you have, I'll give you a walkthrough. Can you guys hear me? Because I don't know if the wind's blocking.
We can hear you.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Does everyone have him on the spotlight?
He has so many mango trees.
Oh, yeah. 144 of them.
Wow.
So here you have, so these cables that you see here, these are tie downs. And you see how they tie down the whole house. That's in case of hurricanes. You have the solar panels, which obviously come down if a hurricane comes, but till then, we're just gonna get as much power from them as possible. As much window as possible is what we chose. To let as much light and air we can possibly get. There you have the dorm area, the kitchen, the bathroom. This is the back, which is a little bump out for the bathroom sink. You have water heater, propane to fuel the water heater. That still needs to get covered with a door similar to that one. There's a little window for the bed area. There's the batteries, and this is all the power from the solar panels. You can see the cables go up to them. And back to the other side. So on this wall is blank. There's no windows there because that's where the closet and the fridge is. This is where that camper was on the pictures. That's the outhouse, which we're still using. So now we're inside. There's one of my cats, Sal.
Aww.
So here, it's a tight space, so you can't really back up further. So this is what we ended up going with. So this is all closet. So Naomi has dresses, so this is where the dresses go. And this is where shirts and pants go. And then you have the other drawers for other socks, shirts, underwear, all that other stuff. So it was kind of a square shape that we needed. Ladder, we go up to the bedroom. Oh, there's the other one. Here we have the kitchen. All right, so if you've been on a boat before, furniture is always against the walls. There's never really something in the middle. So that's kind of what we went through here. And the bathroom, it's actually more of a wet room because this whole thing here is a shower pan. That's where the sink is going to be. The toilet's going to be here, and there's going to be a little cabinet here, but the whole thing is sealed, or will be sealed, for everything in here to be able to get wet. So that way we don't need to have a tiny shower, but we have this whole room as a shower. Yeah, right now that's like the cat litter stuff that shouldn't see. And this is the front of the house. You can see all the light come in. And during winter is great because we have all the windows open and it's pretty cool. That will be replaced. That's just temporary. That's also going to be a built-in. It's going to be a pull-out bed with storage underneath. It's going to have a little L, just full of cushions. So we're really seeking comfort here. And there we can see all the mangoes. And I guess that's it. That's the whole house.
This is really incredible. I can't believe you did all those furniture pieces. It's so beautiful.
Thank you. I mean, as someone who builds furniture, that's like, figure that's the most important part. It's kind of, it's a showroom for me, or I took advantage of it as a showroom. So, yeah, let me know if you have any questions or if you want me to like show you any particular details of the house.
I was wondering if you need any permits to design a house like that.
So that's a very, very important question. And one of the reasons why we put it on a trailer was to avoid permitting. As soon as you break ground for a foundation or septic tank or anything like that, you need permit. But because we're on a trailer, we don't deal with the city. You don't deal with zoning. You deal with the DMV, which are the road people. So we didn't need permit. Yeah.
Like from the beginning sketches, you had two different roofs, one like higher than the other.
Yeah.
When was it that you changed it to like all one height?
We chose that because I couldn't really figure out where that break was. Obviously, like flatter the roof is, the more comfortable it is for the bed. And when you're designing roofs, the more joints you have, the more potential of leak you have. So because it was like complicated on where that break was, we figured, like, let's just make it as simple as possible and make it just two slopes and as flat as possible. Or, well, the angle of it is kind of considering solar angles.
Okay.
So having those two different slopes was gonna complicate one solar panel installation and
the leaking.
Yeah, potential leaks. So yeah.
What kind of wood did you mostly use for everything?
In this house is mostly cypress, which is a southern wood, and it's very, very lightweight, and it's very rot resistant. It's very similar to cedar, but cedar's from up north, cypress is from down south. Um, and because it's on a trailer, we're not really planning on moving it, but if we do want to move it, weight is something to consider.
Do you ever plan on painting the exterior or?
If yeah, I I burned the shingles, which is a Scandinavian and Japanese technique. Uh, the shingles are cedar, and I charred them, which is a firing process that turns it black, and that char gives it a layer of protection. Painting is something that might look good at the beginning, but it I re- one of the things that I think about when making anything is one of the questions is how is it going to age, and things that are natural age better than things that are not natural. For example, like plastics don't really age well. They either crack or discolor in a not very attractive way. But wood and natural procedures, they weather in silvers and patterns that are pretty interesting. So charring allowed pretty nice weathering. It's like a dark silver now, as you were able to see um,
It
from
was
the wall.
beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. And so, Mr. Hankin told me that you guys are working on a project with something about small or compact spaces, or
Yes, we are. We just started it a week ago.
oh, great, great. You guys have any questions about compact spaces?
Right now you're like on like it's like a desktop. Does it fold down?
Oh, good question. Um, so this gets pulled out. It's from the kitchen. Yeah, let me turn it. So yeah, it's a lip. This is where my wife and I have dinner. So that's where the stools are. But I put this here thinking that we would put it on every time we have dinner, but it's actually not inconvenient in the space. Like we still have plenty of space, so we leave it on all the time. But it is considering like if we do need the space, we can just slide it out, put it away, and put it back whenever we need it. So
It's really cool.
yeah. So we have like this one closet or cabinet that's pantry at the bottom and linens above. Linens are things for the bed. So that's also considering space. Like drying rack, which is also storage. Whenever we do our dishes, we put them up here. And while they're drying, they're also being stored. Yeah, just like there's so many little details that are pretty important.
That you got from living in the boat, right?
Yeah, well, it was such a incredible lifestyle. It's not for everyone, but for me it was. And less things you own, the nicer it was. And it was very interesting to live on a boat because it was so well thought out spatially. Like compact design uh, originates back to boat or shipbuilding and gypsies have lived on like little campers and stuff. Like these are all things that have existed for a very, very long time. So coming from that lifestyle, it was a lot of fun developing this house. Yeah. And
Unfortunately,
you
the
guys,
phone rang, so we don't have more time for questions and we need to wrap up. But I plugged his Instagram in the chat box if you guys have any more questions. And if we can all thank Fabio for taking the time out of his day to come.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Thank you.
well, thank
This
you
is
guys.
really
Best of
amazing.
luck-
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
best
From
of luck
the
to you guys
beginnings.
in the projects. I hope to see you guys soon. All right, guys.
Thank you so much,
Bye.
Fabio. Bye,
Have a
guys.
Thank you so much for your time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.